I'm on testosterone replacement therapy. What is testosterone replacement therapy, also known as hormone replacement therapy? Well, there's plenty of videos online about exactly what it is, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about that. Plus, I feel like most people already have a basic understanding of what it is, unless you've been living under a rock. So, this video is actually just going to cover my experiences with TRT, what benefits I've gotten from it, what side effects I've gotten from it, and my recommendations as to who I think it may benefit and who it would not benefit. So I've been on TRT since the beginning of 2019, so over 5 years now. And I went to a TRT clinic in 2018 where I had gotten my test levels checked because I had some symptoms that I thought may be attributed to having low testosterone, and just wanted to see what my levels were like and if my symptoms were indeed caused by low testosterone. So I got my total test and free testosterone levels checked. My total test levels were probably around almost 450 nanograms per deciliter. And I don't remember what my free test levels were, but I believe they were within a normal range. So 450 isn't amazing, but it's not super low. The average total test in nanograms per deciliter for a man is usually between 300 and 1100. So 450 isn't horrible, but it was low enough where they thought having TRT would be warranted based on the levels plus the symptoms I was experiencing. The thing is, you cannot just look at the total levels or even the free test and determine if a person's actually a good candidate or not, because somebody could have, let's say, 350 nanograms per deciliter, feel like garbage. Somebody else could have that 350 nanograms per deciliter and have literally no symptoms of low testosterone. The person that feels like garbage may have had levels closer to 800 when they were younger, and around that 800 area is where they feel the best. So getting them closer to that number would actually greatly enhance the quality of their life. Also, free testosterone needs to be taken into account, and the free test levels are actually more important than the total test levels, because the free test levels is the testosterone that your body can actually utilize that isn't bound up by other processes. And I'm not going to go into more explanation about the differences between free and total test or any of the science behind it, because again, there are plenty of videos that could probably do a better job of explaining this than me. This video is just to share my experiences with TRT. So again, I wasn't sure if I was a candidate for TRT, but apparently the endocrinologist thought so. So I ended up getting the test plus the ancillary drugs they wanted me to take shipped to me about every 10 weeks. And I was just kind of stockpiling because I was very hesitant to start injecting exogenous testosterone, because once you do that, your natural production shuts down, and it's basically a lifelong commitment, because once you start injecting your body and then you stop, your body may never actually start producing testosterone naturally again. And if it does, it'll probably take a very long time too. And during the meantime, you're just going to feel like crap because your levels are going to be in the gutter. So I was very hesitant about starting it, but I eventually decided to pull the trigger, and around February 2019 is when I started injecting. And I was taking about 200 milligrams a week, which is a little on the higher side for TRT, but still is recommended, but it's definitely at that upper limit. And I was taking it, and I knew I wouldn't feel anything for probably a few weeks, just because it takes a while to notice any benefits. And I'll say that the first thing I had noticed was increase in my libido. It went sky high, and it felt like I was going through puberty again. and my libido was so high, it was actually kind of uncomfortable. And I didn't have a girlfriend or really anyone staying consistently at the time, so it was a little rough, but that only lasted for about a few months, and then it kind of went back down to baseline. The first benefit, I'll say, that I had noticed was a little increase in energy and recovery time for my workouts, and definitely an increase in muscle mass and also strength. I probably put on roughly 10 pounds of muscle, maybe even more, over the few months, first few months I was taking it. And my strength, particularly my upper body pushing strength, kind of skyrocketed a little bit. Like my barbell bench press probably went up about 50 pounds within like 4 or 5 months, which is pretty impressive for somebody who's been lifting for years. But I would probably attribute that all a little bit to just practicing it a lot and using better technique, which I think also was the reason I was able to start lifting heavier as well. And it kind of makes sense too, because the areas that I put on the most muscle mass were probably like traps, upper traps, and delts, and definitely the delts, the shoulders. And it kind of makes sense because the front delts are involved in most upper body, basically all upper body pushing movements, particularly vertical pressing. So quite a bit of horizontal pressing too, which makes sense why my bench press went up. So around the first time I got my levels checked my test levels checked after having been on TRT, my total test was around probably 1,200 or 1,300 nanograms per deciliter, which was a little outside normal range. But I wasn't too concerned because all my other blood markers and all the other blood work looked amazing. So I wasn't too concerned. It was just one of the things about being on TRT is you got to get blood work done often just to make sure that things look good, because you can alter a lot of different markers and stuff like that, so you have to be on top of it. The problem with getting testosterone from an endocrinologist is a lot of them will make you get ancillary drugs you may not need. In my case, where I was going for the TRT at the time, that was the case. They were making me get an aromatase inhibitor and also HCG, and I did not need either one of them, but I was having to pay for them, otherwise I wouldn't be able to, stay on the protocol. So the thing with the aromatase inhibitor is I didn't need it because I don't heavily aromatize testosterone, meaning I don't convert a lot of it into estrogen. So my estrogen levels were not that high where I would have needed an AI. And the thing is, if you don't need an AI, you shouldn't take one, because it can have some pretty nasty side effects and just make you feel like garbage. Also, I didn't need HCG because I, wasn't planning on ever having children, and I don't really care if my testicles atrophied a little bit. Not a big concern. I mean, they're still big enough, so just something extra that I didn't need. The clinic also said that I could just inject once a week, which is not ideal. You should, at bare minimum, be injecting twice a week if it's a long-acting ester, which most people would take, such as a testosterone ethanoate or a cypionate. Probably 3 times a week would be even more ideal. But if you're just injecting once a week, then your testosterone in the blood, your levels are not going to be stable, and they're just going to start to dip down quite a bit before you take your next injection. So it doesn't really make any sense to just inject once a week. And there are certain endocrinologists who will even prescribe injections once every 2 weeks, which is pretty crazy. And I know a person who actually injects literally just once a month, which is the most idiotic thing I've ever heard. You're literally just castrating yourself at that point. You're not going to be producing. You're going to have super low levels of test for probably about 3 weeks out of the month. So it doesn't even make sense to be on TRT at that point. And it's just idiotic. But if you've been watching the channel long enough, you know my feelings about medical doctors and how most of them are absolute morons. So this doesn't surprise me. So what are the side effects I've experienced from TRT? Well, the first one is a bit of an increase in acne, but I only had that for about the first maybe 2.5 years, and now I don't have any acne really at all. I was always prone to acne, so I wasn't surprised that it got worse when I was on TRT, and I was getting acne in places I never had before. But the last few years I really haven't had any, so it's no longer an issue. Another side effect I'd say is the hair on the top of my head has thinned a little, while my body hair has probably gotten a little thicker. My hair has been thinning. The hair on my scalp has been thinning probably about the last 3 years or so, and it could just be due to normal aging as well, but I think the TRT definitely has sped up the process, so it's a little concerning because I used to have very thick hair. Other than that, I haven't really noticed any negative side effects besides that. So have I ever gone over 200 milligrams of test a week? I'm very transparent about everything on this channel, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, so I'd never lie about it. And I'd be lying if I said I never went over 200 milligrams a week. I was getting or kind of stockpiling some extra test when I wasn't using it that first year. And I've also got some UGL tests, stands for underground lab, meaning not pharmaceutical grade tests from other sources. So I have experimented with doing what you call cycles, or maybe for about 10 or 12 weeks or so, maybe even a little longer. I would be running a higher dose, and I've gone up to 600 milligrams of test a week, and I never noticed any significant benefits from doing that. So now I'm just back on 200, but I guess I'm not really a great hyper responder to it. So for me, just running extra tests doesn't really have any noticeable performance enhancing benefits or any, I don't notice any real increases in muscle mass or changes in my body composition. So it's not worth it, because when I was running 600 milligrams of test a week, my total tests had gone up to a whopping 3,000 or so nanograms per deciliter, and my free test was probably 4 to 5 times higher than like the end of the normal range. So just super high levels with no real noticeable benefits. So, you know, for me, it wasn't worth it. So I just try to run a therapeutic dose now, because again, I don't notice any performance enhancing or other types of benefits. And I want to stay healthy and safe, and having high levels of testosterone for an extended period of time is very unhealthy. So would I recommend testosterone replacement therapy to anybody? First off, I try to wait till you're at least in your 30s, unless you have some medical condition and you really have super low levels. Then I definitely get it regardless of what your age is. Also, I'd only recommend to people that are trying to live a healthy lifestyle, because having poor lifestyle and not being healthy can lower your test levels. And if you were to change your lifestyle, you could actually dramatically increase your testosterone levels naturally without having to inject it. I have a friend, he's an idiot, and he hopped on TRT because I thought it would kind of help him probably change his physique and stuff like that. Yet he doesn't work out consistently, he doesn't eat well, he probably doesn't sleep enough, and he's a booze hound. All these things are not will definitely lower your test levels for sure. So for him to go on it, it doesn't make any sense at all. And his levels weren't even low enough to warrant it. His levels are probably in the low 400s. And at the clinic he was going to, they'd only prescribe him probably about 100 to 120 milligrams a week, which probably would literally just put him at the levels he's currently at. So for him to just start injecting just to be at the same levels he's at literally makes zero sense at all. But again, he's an idiot, and I told him that, but wouldn't listen to me. It's just there's so many people like that just want like a quick fix, and that's why these weight loss surgeries and these drugs and all that stuff, for weight loss and everything is so popular, because people don't want to do the very basic things like, having proper, consistently exercising, doing proper exercise program, proper nutrition, just the very basics, that will actually get you the results if you're consistent with them. People just want results right away and without having to put in any work. And it's unfortunate our society's just become so lazy that people are willing to take harmful drugs and potentially dangerous surgeries in order to achieve something that they could have achieved naturally just through a little consistent hard work and some discipline. So that's my story with TRT. I think overall it's been a positive thing in my life, but it's not for everybody, and of course it carries inherent risks with using it. It's not cheap. Injecting can be a pain in the ass, a literal pain in the ass, and you can obviously get infections and all stuff that comes with having to inject yourself. So it's something that you really need to think about before you hop on it, because it's usually a lifelong decision. Like once you make it, you're pretty much probably going to have to be out the rest of your life. I think this should only be used if you have low levels, and if those low levels are making you feel like garbage. If you have low levels and you still feel great and amazing, then you probably don't need it. But again, it depends how low the levels are. There's a lot of variables, and also you should be already trying to live a healthy lifestyle, because again, you could naturally raise your test levels just through making some basic changes to your lifestyle. So I wouldn't recommend to somebody who's not living a healthy lifestyle and to somebody who clearly just doesn't really need it. And I guess you're afraid of needles too, probably not a good idea. So that's all I got. If you have any comments, questions, concerns regarding TRT, experiences with it, leave it in the comments below. And until next time, stay strong, warriors.